Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And once again, it's time for Heroes Jubilee number 42 versus Gobta, I guess. Cool. But we're going to be going into the normal battles today. We have maxed out 2 of them, and we've gotten as close as I possibly feel like getting to for normal 3. I don't really care about like 2,000 points or whatever. But these stages are... they're okay. Normal 3 really sucks. Normal 1, they die way too quickly, I guess we'll put it that way. But, there have been worse stages than that. Today's video, or well, at least this video, we'll be focusing on normal Battle 1. It is an AoE stage. Your best case is a Wind Magic team, so preferably Exalted Champions. That's how we got our max score, like this. We are fighting 3 sharks who have no HP. Like, literally, if the mass hero breathes on them, they will die. So you gotta be really careful. They do seal defense up, they give attack, they can stun if you go past turn 3. Nothing too big about them. The starting hand is 2 blues and 4 greens, so you're meant to use like either Isis or Exalted Champion Veldora to convert those turn 1. So, it's just very, very weak. The team build is pretty easy if you can manage it, but it is what it is. But let's get the disclaimers out of the way. Disclaimer number 1 is that your results may vary. I'm going to show you a number of different team builds. Doesn't mean it's going to suit everybody's specific box, so please use this as a guide, and then you just have to substitute out units as you need to. Disclaimer number 2 are these are the units I use for protection gauge, and these are the units I use for skill point gain. You'll see them a lot. And then disclaimer number 3 is don't forget to go into your town and optimize your wind building so your wind character can be the strongest as possible, but also preferably not too strong to kill them in one shot. But with that said, let's jump in. Alright, the first team is the max score team, Exalted Champions. As you see here, we're running Velzard with Gabru underneath her. No one on this team has attack gear except for Milim and Shizu. Everyone else does not have weapons on. No matter those, frontline or the supports, they don't have it, because we do already too much damage with Milim. We don't need to do any extra with Guy, especially since he's also getting the damage buff against water enemies. The charm we are running should be, I believe, alt damage or something close to that. I can't quite remember. But Isis is here for the turn 1 orb change. We are running Soe and Space Milim as our SP units. Soe is also here to give us defense against the sharks so we don't take that much damage. And then Guy is obviously here to alt rush and give Milim synergy. Violet is here to give the magic buff, and that's pretty much it. And then Milim has her own personal weakness strike and alt damage buff. We do not need the EX alt with Milim. We do enough damage between these 3 buffs alone to do the damage cap, which is 1.6 million. Higher than normal. Normally it's 1.4 million. They upped it because they know that Milim does a shit ton of damage, so they had to do that. Okay, so turn 1, we're using the skill point units because we need 42. We need to orb change, and we also need to give the defense and attack nerf with Soe's skill. So we'll orb change with Isis, turn 1. Boom. And then we'll bring in Milim for Isis. And then we'll use the defense skill. And this will protect us from their attack. If you get pierced, you're going to take too much damage. You're not going to get the quote-unquote max score, but if you don't care about that, you can do as you want. You don't have to run this specifically to get a really good score. This is just if you want to go for tippity top max. We do have to kill one of the sharks so they can just do less damage to us. The right one is the one that gives themselves pierce, which you don't want pierce. You can take the crit, you can take the attack buff, it's fine, but the pierce will go through that and you need to kill that right shark. So we're going to alt rush here, boom, and then we're going to kill the middle shark with whatever orbs. Just enough to give you a protector Velzard and enough points to use all 3 of the skills next turn. But we gotta kill this shark too, which leaves the crit shark. And then he'll do, hopefully, 1 damage to everybody, like that. And then we have 125 points, which is just enough to use all 3 of the buffs here. So Milim buff, Violet buff, and Guy buff, plus the elemental damage and Drago effect from Velzard. We'll go ahead and use that, and then we'll just send Milim, and she does enough damage by herself. She does have enchantments on, which means that we do more than normal, so 1.6 flat right there. So if your Milim does not have enchantments, or she doesn't have dupes, she'll do slightly less. It's okay though, you don't need to get tippity top score, but this is the tippity top score. 0 damage taken, 1.6 million damage for max, and then the turn bonus of turn 3. So the Exalted Champions team is really good. Who'da thunk, right? Let's move on to the other teams now. Alright, next is New Year's Blessing for the full team. So we've got Xion, we again have Isis for the turn 1 orb change. We're no longer worrying about the skill points, so we've got the big 3 for protection gauge underneath. Again, no one has attack gear except for Milim. Diablo is going to give the orbs away to Milim because we've ensured that she has the highest attack because we've taken all the gear off. Rimuru is here for the rainbows, Milim's buffing and nuking, and then Shinsha is buffing and supporting. So this will not get the max score. It will get you fairly close, though, because we don't have any defense on this team. So we're going to take the Pierce, we're going to take the higher attack Shark on, but we can, I believe, still get either 2 or very close to that 1.6 million cap. Okay, so they've already started to seal us on turn 1, not a big deal. So orb change, since we don't have the skill points units up front, we can only orb change. We're going to bring Shinsha in now, which then leaves us with 2 New Year's Blessing characters up front, and then we're going to spread the damage, because we need everybody to live here. We're AoE nuking with this team now. So we're going to send this 6 here, but then the next turn, with Milim, hopefully a full 6 send of Milim, we're going to not kill everybody here. So there's the crit. Alright, 1 damage there, but here's the Pierce, and that comes in, and oh, he only takes 1 still. Alright, great. Okay, so 122 points. We have a bunch of Isis orbs. We're going to use the green buff now because it will affect the rainbow orbs that's going to come in. So we'll use Xion now so that our Milim does not have the crit synergy and therefore doesn't do too much damage and kills the sharks just outright. So we'll bring Rimuru in. Now that we have a full front line of New Year's Blessing, we'll use Diablo to send all the orbs to him, and then we can rainbow, bring Milim in. So Rimuru had the second highest attack, but because we didn't bring Milim in, he ended up having the highest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This should leave them quite low. Alright, yeah, very, very low. Milim does not have enchanted gear, nor does she have any dupes in her. So this is like pretty base level Milim right here, apart from the the 120 Xion that we've got as a protector. But 130 points. We're not using Rimuru's buff, so we have enough to use the crit debuff with Diablo and then Shinsha and Milim's buffs, and then we can use Xion here, give Milim the guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy, and everyone is alive, and we can go ahead and nuke. I don't really want to send anything else though, and we do 430k across, so not enough to hit the damage cap, and also we did take a little bit of damage going into it, but we're not far off. And New Year's is still a good team. If you don't have Milim, I mean, I have another example here for you later, but this can certainly give you a pretty good serviceable score. Okay, next is another New Year's quote-unquote team. We've got Xion, we've got Isis, we've got Rimuru, so that hasn't changed. But now we have Tempest Elite Benimaru. 50% physical damage and 25% ult resistance down against one enemy, but it's 40 points. And then we're going to nuke with Adventurer / Wielder of Magic Shizu, or World of Fantasy Shizu, sorry. She is an AoE win character. She is physical, so she'll get the guaranteed crits and synergy from Xion. And then we've got Skill Fused Wind Milim, because if she's Skill Fused, not only is she giving 70% ult damage to everybody, she's also giving 30% crit damage to wind allies. So that just helps Shizu do more damage since we're already getting crit rate from Xion. If Milim is not Skill Fused, not a big deal, you'll just won't do as much damage. You'll still get the 70% ult buff, which is good, but this just optimizes it a little bit. Again, no one has attack gear except for Shizu, because she's the only one that needs to do damage here. Everyone else is inconsequential. And it's going to run pretty much the same way that the last New Year's Blessing team did, where you just buff up and get rainbows for Shizu. It's just that we no longer have a unit that orb steals or gives away orbs to Shizu, so we do need a bit of RNG to be able to get her ult. with this team specifically, I have the alt gauge on green charm going on right now because it's an extra 40%. And since rainbows are affected by all colored orb buffs, it does count alongside the Isis buff, alongside the rainbows, should get us the Shizu alt. Okay, so turn 1 is still the same. We keep using Isis because she's free to play and she's very accessible because you just need flashback crystals for her. You could use another blue orb changer if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter, especially since we're not using her other skill quite yet. But she is very good, and this is why I always tell people to get her. We're going to bring Milim in, and we're going to definitely spread the damage out this time because we do a little bit too much now. And we need to see who has the most orbs. That way we can bring Rimuru in and change those, and then bring Shizu in. So, looking at this, I believe we have 4 Isis orbs, is what I saw. Alright, crit pierce there, not great. And, okay, no pierce there. Alright, 4 Isis? 3 Isis orbs, okay. Well, that'll still work. We're going to use the Isis buff, and then we're going to use the Benimaru blue convert because of the extra 30% gauge increase. We'll stack alongside the green gauge increase, alongside the rainbows, alongside the charm that we're running. This will just ensure that we have enough to get the EX alt. We're going to use Rimuru to convert to rainbows. We're going to use Xion now, so Shizu does not get that crit synergy. But we do have enough points to use 1 stack of her attack buff, which is like 15% or something like that. You do have to be very careful, though, because she does get a little strong, even without the crit synergy. And if you try and send too much on one shark, it will die. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. I'm going to switch it around and send Milim last, actually, because it has a lot of health. So yeah, she does quite a bit of damage, but we can at least get a stack here, and we can get another stack of that next turn. So that's an extra 30% attack we're giving her. But as you can see, from all the gauge buffing that we've done, we've actually got the EX alt off 3 rainbow orbs, which is nice. And then we have 130 points, so we have 40 points, and 55 points is exactly enough to use everything. The alt resistance down only applies to 1 shark, so we're going to use it on the lowest HP shark. And then guaranteed crits, guaranteed synergy from Xion, and we'll send the nuke. And we do 440 and then 348 against the other ones, which obviously is not the 1.6 million, but it's still pretty decent. It's over 1 million damage, and it's pretty serviceable for people that can't do that tippity-top Exalted Champions team. So this is also pretty solid. Alright, the final team that I have for this is a sad, sad Tempest Elite Shuna team. We've got Protector Frey, who changes all orbs to greens. She gives all physical allies guaranteed crits, which Shuna is physical. And she gives you 40 skill points every time you use her, so it means that we can use multiple buffs in one turn. We are running the alt gauge charm for greens on her again. That will combine with the Isis buff on turn 2. Isis is here again to orb change. Summer Hinata is here to steal 6 orbs into a 6 Shuna, hopefully. Wielder of Magic Shizu / second anniversary Shizu, whatever you want to call her. She is here because she has a 2-turn alt resistance down debuff. If you do not have her, don't worry about it. Put someone in that slot. You don't have a lot of points to use regardless, and there are not a lot of 2-turn buffs that you can use to help Shuna out. So if you don't have Shizu, just put someone in there. It could be freaking free-to-play Rieger or Hakuro. Like, it does not matter. Just put someone there. It's just Shizu does have a 2-turn alt resistance down and does help out Shuna, but is by all means not necessary. Shuna is nuking. She has her 30% pierce power buff, and then Fount of Wisdom Rimuru has the physical buff, which will again help Shuna. And yeah, this is the bottom of the barrel team. If you use this, or you have to, you're watching this clip, at this point I would just use any wind nuker you have, whether it be single target or AoE, and just get a score and just move on with your day. As long as you score something, you will get crystals, so this is last resort, but let's just go ahead and jump in. Okay, so starting out, I mean, the stages have run the same. You will orb change with Isis turn 1. You're going to swap Hinata for Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. That way, when she's in the back on turn 2, we can see who has 3 orbs and we can bring her in. It doesn't matter who gets swapped out. None of them are really holding any value on turn 2, except for Shizu, if you happen to have her. So we're going to spread the damage a bit, because Shuna is wind. She does do a bit more than normal, and these sharks don't have a lot of health. So here, turn 2, we have 3 Rimuru orbs. Okay, cool. So we're going to use the Isis buff. We will use Frey now to give us 6 greens, but we're not going to use it with Shuna up front, because I don't want her to do any excess damage. And then we'll use the Shizu debuff, because it does last for 2 turns. And again, if you don't have her, don't worry about it. You just won't use anything except the Isis buff this turn. And the Hinata Steel. So there we go. 6 Nada orbs. We'll use Frey to change them all to greens, which have the Isis buff, plus the Alt Gauge charm. And then we will bring Shuna in. We technically have enough points to use her Pierce buff now, but she does too much damage. Since these sharks are just paper mache, if you put the Pierce buff on her, one of them will die, if not 2 of them. So we cannot apply that now, which is unfortunate, because that would have left us open for like another bigger buff instead of Shizu, but we can't do it. Like, they will die with the Pierce buff on. And they will also die with the crit buff on from Frey, which is why we didn't put it on Shuna on turn 2. But now we have 100 points. Let's bring in Rimuru. The alt resistance down is still applied from last turn from Shizu. Let's use the 80-point skill from Rimuru. Boom. And then we'll use Frey to give her guaranteed crits. And more importantly, give us 40 points, which means that we can use the Pierce Power buff. And then we'll go ahead and do a sad nuke with her. Can't really do anything else because they won't live, but 150, 188 on the other one. I don't really know why that one was higher than the others, but sure, whatever. It didn't say synergy on it, at least I didn't think so. And we do 500,000 plus, so it's not a great score, it's a score. If you have to use this team, then, I mean, or anything else, just, you gotta do what you gotta do. And at that point, just use any kind of win team, just any kind of support. It doesn't have to be one of these 4 teams that I've shown you, but just do something to get a score and just move on with your day. But that's going to do it for Normal Battle 1. If you have other team suggestions that you found that works, put them in the comments below so other people can see and use them to their as much as they can. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.